The first thing I'm going to say in this video is, while I did have an idea for it, it's this video is still going to end up being all over the place because I did not write it down properly. Similar to the last video, I have like two separate like kind of outlines and two separate topics that I wanted to talk about in this video. And it's going to be very difficult to not get off topic. Also, if you can hear the noise in the background, I have the windows open because they turned the heater, they switched the AC to heater because it's supposed to be getting cold. So there's the wind messing with the blinds and whatever else is happening outside. Now that I got all of that out the way, hi, I'm your local internet friend, aka Toki, and today's video is going to be a continuation of the last video I did where I was talking about how difficult it is to live life being after dealing with processing trauma. But I'm also going to be talking about how that is just very difficult when you don't have when you're essentially doing it all alone. And the main way of how I'm going to, am I in the right spot? Combine those two topics together is essentially talking about my YouTube journey thus far and what my plan is, what my generalized plan is after I finish this project. One of the pieces of trauma that I specifically had to process through and then figure out how to navigate afterward is handling family members. Specifically, because of the fact that I was essentially raised with the idea of family is supposed to come first because family should know you very well and is not there to hurt you. I did everything when I did pretty much everything I thought I could to assist my other family members. The other idea that was attached to that was my mom constantly talked about how having children is such a burden. Which kind of made me think, you had us and you're having to deal with a lot of issues simply because you also have us. How am I not to believe that you also look at us as a burden? And throughout my childhood, I was trying to essentially prove that I am at least worth being such a burden. For anyone that is questioning that part when it comes to their own childhood, let me be very clear and straightforward. I don't think you had a say in whether you was born into this world at that time. So I also feel like you shouldn't be labeling yourself as a burden. But like, yeah, generalization. I thought I was specifically working with the concept of I need to prove that I am worth being loved. When I first started doing YouTube videos with the concept of maybe this could actually be a career path for me, I did have the idea of some of my family members, at least the ones that I thought I trusted, also like working together with me on it. Like my original daydream plan was to have my older sister as my personal assistant that goes with me when I have to go do things, and my mom as like a general finance manager because she's really good with numbers, and there's only so much that I can do. I'm not really good with numbers or memorization. And I also feel like there are times where I need someone behind me that could possibly catch a lot of the stuff that I tend to miss because I get so laser focused on like very specific details. However, getting to about like 5.5 years later, I'm now at a point where I'm recognizing as much as that pipe dream was from I really do want to help raise them out of these issues, and I wanted to go ahead and be able to say that I've helped in in substantial, is that the word I'm looking for? There are a lot of issues that would have made that darn near impossible. Outside of the fact that solely based off of the way that they treated me before I started doing YouTube and everything else that transpired while I was trying to reach that dream. It didn't seem like they deserved that sort of, hey, I am successful, so I am giving you a piece of that. And the main thing that I would end up saying is simply because it's different ideas that would have made big conflicts, or different opposing ideas that would create big conflicts within the system. We're already having to deal with that at home. I don't think I want to go ahead and deal with that when it comes to my career. But there's also the feelings I ended up getting from the way that my older sister had treated me, that kind of read as either she doesn't like me or she's constantly, possibly subconsciously, comparing herself to me and is feeling some sort of envy or jealousy towards me because of where she thinks she is inferior compared to me. There's also the potential for sabotaging, whether intentional or not. But one of the main things with that is like the amount of time and the amount of mental and emotional energy it took to recognize that as a problem, accept that that's what it is what it is, and then having to process the emotions that come up with all of that. Part of that is essentially recognizing that I failed to turn that dream into a reality. But at the same time, it's not really something that, it's not really because I myself has failed. It's just the dream was so far away from the reality of the people within it that there was something that needed to have at least been tweaked in order to get even close to it. And it almost made me feel like me doing YouTube for as long as I did was a waste of time and energy. But then I had to go ahead and have a little like shadow journal, shadow work journaling session, which is one of the things I'm getting a lot of this information from. That even with the situation, I did my hecking darndest to essentially get it back on track without being tyrannical about it or controlling. Specifically, I am reading word for word. I tried to help fix said issues. Probably not the best choice, but I thought it was a fair one, and it didn't work out. Eventually, I stopped, it was going nowhere, and switched gears, experimented to find what was satisfying to make. I had failed to turn my dream into reality, and I had to go ahead and get through an entire grieving process of that. Now, the second topic that I wanted to bring up in this video is very specifically the family versus friends thing, which is something else I ended up bringing up in the family arc. The difference between family and friends is that you can choose your friends, but you can't really choose who your blood related to. Oh my gosh, the amount of times I've had to say blood in that situation. And when it comes to that specifically, the first thing I wrote was the people you allow in your life should care about you as well. And the funnier thing is the fact that if they don't really like or love themselves, care for themselves, they're not like, it's not likely that they would care about you, let alone be able to love you, for lack of a better word, properly. You can't really choose who you're related to, family wise, but that doesn't mean that you should, but that doesn't mean they should get a pass for not caring, either being neglectful at best or abusive at worst. With friends, it's easier to pick and choose because there's no unspoken expectation to follow. For example, I know my mom did everything in her power to give us the best life she possibly could. At the same time, I also feel like she was trying to prove that she can handle things on her own and that she didn't need to seek help from anyone, or that she was even able to trust anyone until she was in one of those I am in desperate need type situations. And then she ends up just taking the first hand of help that reaches out to her. And I've already talked about the Houdini, formerly known as my dad, and how that situation is. With them not even being able to be on the same page when it came to raising us. That in and of itself created so much conflict within our upbringing. Simply because one parent couldn't have cared less and the other parent was too stressed out because they were having to deal with doing the physical, mental, and emotional work of both parents. Whereas when it came to friends that I've made some relatively decent choices overall. And when it came to both the platonic relationships that I've made when I was in school, as well as the questionable romantic ones. Questionable as in there was only like one maybe two people that I've actually dated when I was in school. One of them can't really be counted because it was like second grade and I barely remember it. Or even before what I've chosen as my heavy quotations freshman brain choice gone questionably wrong. There was also the friendship that I ended up making with someone when I was in seventh grade, and how recognizing that she was making friends with a very specific person that I was uncomfortable around, and me feeling essentially bad for like emotionally distancing myself from said friend simply because of that other friend she made. But I'm also recognizing the fact that it's like, hey, I did not feel comfortable around that other person. And I also did not want to control who she decided to be friends with. That is still relatively good thing that I did, but I felt bad about it because I recognized how it would look from her side, or how I would end up feeling if I was in her shoes. And I think that's also because of the fact that I've had a lot of family members specifically using sympathy and empathy to emotionally manipulate me into doing whatever they wanted me to do. However, it's also funny how that didn't really work out that well. Simply because as much as I am and was an empathetic person, um logic always prevailed. So the conclusion that I came up with in that aspect is the people in my life who didn't seem to respect me or actively care about me were mainly family members. The same people I was supposed to learn how to set boundaries with and or from, who also ended up using being family as an emotional shield. Whereas the friends that I made, I ended up making because I had already set those boundaries unknowingly. Like, I am not about to go ahead and talk to a person that I don't need to talk to, but also that I don't feel comfortable in talking to. And if I have nothing to say to that person, why say anything? And I still ended up making friends that way in school. So, yeah, I really wanted this to have gone somewhere when I originally started. But then I started recognizing the fact that I don't end up with a video that gets thousands of views or what have you. It's another year that I feel more like I'm wasting time. Also, is another year in which I'm sitting here thinking, I don't think I'm going to get anywhere doing this. Which is another reason as to why I'm choosing to not really figure out what I'm going to do until after I finish this project, the greatest illusion. I also don't think I will be doing much of anything on YouTube after I finish this project. And I think that's honestly for the best. As much as I didn't really get where I wanted to, and that's kind of depressing. I'm also recognizing the fact that it wasn't just a waste of my time. Hopefully it wasn't a waste of yours, because within that 5.5 year period, I have learned how to do so much. And I was able to become way more honest about a lot of the stuff that was going on in my life. And I don't know, I don't think you have the ability to do that doing any other uh, career path. Because of the fact that I had a creative outlet that I could essentially filter a lot of my thoughts and post for whoever to watch, I was able to let go of the constant need to keep quiet about a lot of it. Figuring out what you want to do after you get through processing all your trauma in and of itself is difficult, because you have to figure out what you like, and sometimes what you were good at while you were processing through the trauma wasn't necessarily something that you're good at afterwards. Like, I don't write as much as I used to, which I'm starting to understand was probably another way that I emotionally processed my everything. But at the same time, I've come to accept that, and now have the ability to at some point revisit a lot of the stuff that I remembered that I liked. I get to rediscover who I am, not just without the trauma, but who I will become past it. I don't think I feel the need to be successful in any artistic endeavor anymore. Simply because what what would be classified as being successful when it comes to art? At the very least, the way that I see it, it's as long as it reaches the people that feel like they need it the most, like they need to hear it the most. As long as it changes at least one person's life for the better, then I feel like I've done my job. And sometimes that person's life is my own. And even now, with everything else that's happening that I'm reading about, I feel like it's very important to be that type of honest. The overall conclusion that I'm making in this video is that I am going to figure out what I want to do. And that might mean I won't be doing YouTube videos as often, if at all. However, that does not mean that I practically just wasted like 5.5 years. And that also, there's someone screaming in the hallway. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it's very distracting. It doesn't mean that everything that I specifically did on this channel was for absolutely nothing. But it just means I can finally let go of that dream that I originally had when I started it. I don't think I even want to do the stereotypical YouTuber outro with this video, especially with everything that I specifically talked about in it. But if you like this video, you can like it. If you want to subscribe for whatever I decide to make until the year's end, I believe, you can. Any type of questions, comments, concerns, you can put into the comment section below. And as far as ideas for future videos, I have no idea. If you have any, or if you have any like recommendations on things I can get into, you can put that in the comment section. But that will be all from me. Is that what I'm saying? Yeah. See you in the next video.